I'm supposed to. There we go. So I did introduce myself, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about the center. So the Wahiawa Value Added Product Development Center is a 33,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility tailored to empower Hawaii's entrepreneurs, our students, and farmers alike, with a mission deeply rooted in fostering growth and opportunity for our state's agricultural industry. It serves as a catalyst for economic advancement and food innovation statewide. So that's just a little bit about our center and who's hosting this class tonight. And I'm so proud to be a part of tonight and so thankful that you guys all have joined us. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let our Assistant Professor Dag take it away. Thanks, Dag, for being here tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, Christiane. Hello, Kako, everyone. Thank you so much for investing your time with Christiane and I this afternoon. It's almost evening. It's going to be evening by the time we're done, but hopefully by the time we're done around 7, we'll have some interesting types of thinking about how we got to price things, how we going to plan to price it. And the reason we decided to start this workshop this month is that we're just around the holiday season. If you're running a business, you know you're already getting into that period where you start the planning on the sales and what kind of pricing and what kind of promotion am I developing. And the other part is we're right around the corner from 2025. And what you want to do is you want to get an early jump in 2025 and start planning. So we decided this might be an opportune time to work this little workshop, and it's part of the Lean Launch series. So if some of you may have been at our first one, we are fostering the Lean Launch methodology, which is the prominent way of launching a business in terms of minimizing the failure rate of these startups. So let's get started. So one of the things I want to do is I want to sort of explain who I am. My name is Faustino Dag. Everyone calls me Dag. No one calls me Faustino. And I'd like all of you to do the same. I'm assistant professor, and that's a fancy term. It's really a fancy term saying some guy who wrote a dossier and had a bunch of people read it and say, hey, let's get on a title. The reality is I had over 30 years in international marketing, and I had 14 years as a vice president of merchandising for some of the largest, for one large corporation, and also ran several different businesses. So I thought I'd share some pricing as well as promotional tips with all of you. Some of you may already have an ongoing business. Some of you may just have a startup business, and some of you are just planning one. So I want to give you a little insight based on my experience, of course. And so why don't we get started? So let me share my screen. And we'll get started.
And Dag, while we get that going, do you mind if I ask people to throw in the chat their first and last name and if they have a business or a business idea, and just throw it in the chat so we know who's in the room? Is that cool?
Sure, that'd be great.
All right, everyone, can you please put in the chat your first and your last name? And if you have a business, what is your business? And or if you have a business idea, please just share that with us in the chat. Thank you. Aloha bites. Aloha, Kiko. Thank you. Just so that we can know who's in the room. Right on.
All right, great. So this evening, what we're going to talk about is not just about promotional pricing and planning, but we're going to talk about these 6 different areas: revenue streams, pricing objectives, basic determinants that set prices, types of pricing strategies and tactics, types of promotional tactics, and lastly, building a promotional calendar. So when we look at something called revenue stream, and I wanted to start revenue streams because many startups especially think of a revenue stream as just selling a product or selling a service, and that's about it. The reality is, if you really examine how your company makes money, there may be multiple ways in which to drive revenue. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to discuss, let me change the direction of, I'm looking at, get rid of that little black screen on your right so you see everything. Really just briefly look over types of revenue stream. As I go to each one, it's just going to be a touch. I want you to think about your business or your business concept and see how many revenue streams you can actually develop. The first one, of course, is asset sales. This is where you sell your product or your service. It's outright how you got a product, you buy it, you sell it. That's asset sales. Now I want you to think about the remaining items on the list. Usage fee in your particular business or your business concept. Is there a way to charge usage fee? You might say, well, so Dad, what's usage fee? If you ever took an Uber, that's a usage fee where you will charge a fee for somebody using a service or even a product of yours. So can you think of it like Uber? Again, Uber is a classic case of usage fee. Is there something like maybe you could tutor someone? That could be a part of a usage fee. If you're running a restaurant, could you have a recipe that you might want to have, share, or sell? These are things that I want you to look at. Usage fees. The next one, this one is my particular favorite. It's called subscription fees. So I don't. So some of you might go, oh, dang, I don't have a magazine. Why should I sell subscription? A subscription just simply means that people will pay upfront for a scheduled amount of product, service, or like a newspaper. This one is interesting because if you can think through your business concept, you can create multiple subscription fees, such as one of the biggest news subscription fees are wine. In this holiday season, you can have subscribed to 24 bottles of wine, sent 2 bottles at a time every month. You pay a fee up front, and every month, 2 bottles of wine show up. I want you to really think about subscription fees. And there's a couple of advantages. One of which is you get the fee up front. You also have a long-term connection or contact with a customer. And that's one of the things I like about subscription fees is this ability to stay in contact with your customer. And that builds something really important as you're trying to scale your business because you want to make sure you have a group of customers who are your loyal grouping. So subscription fees are great. Rental fees, do you have anything in your business that you can rent out? If you're a gardening firm, can you rent out shovels? Can you rent out little travel? What can you handle? If you're a restaurant, can you rent out maybe pots and pans? I'm just thinking out loud. It's not very creative, but I'm sure you are when we talk about rental fees. What can you rent from your business that will drive additional fees? Licensing used to have to do with intellectual property. And this one maybe if you are a restaurant owner, you might want to license some of your recipes to restaurants in other parts of the state or even out of state. So again, licensing fees means you're going to charge a fee for people to use your or intellectual property. Next one's called intermediation fee. Intermediation fee simply means you're a broker. You bring two people together, and the classic intermediary is Airbnb. They don't own the property, and of course, they don't own the owner, but they bring both of them together. And when they both make an agreement, Airbnb gets a fee. The last one on the list is advertising fee. Can you have somebody say, if you have a storefront, maybe put a little a plaque in front of it or a little poster, and you can charge them advertising fee. Again, what I want you to take a look at these. Again, you'll have access to this video recording. So I want you to look at these when you're looking at that recording and try to really think through how can I add a second revenue? So what I'm going to be doing now is now that we have an idea that we can get multiple revenue streams into our business, we're now going to look at pricing. And pricing is a tactic to set prices for each segment. So each one of these revenue streams could come from a different segment of your particular market. And now we're going to talk about and sort of investigate, sort of massage different types of pricing tactics that can be used to generate revenue. So hopefully I haven't lost any view of that. So what I like to do is pose a question to you. Let me share that screen now. Pose a question for you. This is one. And I like to pose this question to you. I want you to write it down. And again, if you can't do it right now, you might want to think about it for the future. What additional revenue stream can you add to your asset sales to create these two streams? And so I'm going to challenge you to think about it. At least try to come up with two revenue streams for your business or your business concept, because that will add to your revenue as well as your profitability. So let's take a look and move over to pricing strategies. And at this point, I'm going to show you a video. And this evening, I'm going to share 4 videos with you. This is the first. And when I show a video, it's a 2-step process. So I want to make sure that I don't lose any of you. I just want to warn you up front, this is a 2-step process, so you'll see some blank screens before you see the video. So let me get into the process. By the way, the video is from Steve Blank, who is a founder of the Lean Launch methodology and is a professor at Stanford University. And we have worked with Steve quite a bit in launching companies. So let me get that video up and running. Again, just 2 steps. Don't want to lose anyone.
Reason why I love
Okay, now the video should be popping up.
this lecture is that there's a series of common mistakes that first time you experience out.
Can you turn it up, Dag?
Oh,
Can you make it a little louder?
oh, it's okay. Okay, thanks. All right, let's get those boxes clipped up. Okay, Christian, let me know if you can hear this one. Let me put it back. Let me bring this back a little bit.
The reason why I love this lecture
is
that there's a series of common mistakes that first time and even experienced entrepreneurs make in thinking about revenue and pricing. And the first one is that this whole idea about revenue stream, Steve, I get it. You know, a revenue stream, it's about the price, the dollar amount I'm charging customers. That's a mistake. You'll see later that pricing is a tactic. Or maybe I kind of get it, okay, now I understand that pricing's a tactic, but I'll set the price of the product based on how much it costs me to make it. Well, how else would you set pricing? Cost me 99 cents to make it? I'll charge $1.25, and, you know, that's a kind of a reasonable price. We'll also see why that might be a huge mistake in leaving lots of money on the table. And then kind of the third common error is my price has to be less than my competitor's price. If they're charging $5,000, the best way to enter a market is to charge $4,000. Why? No one would pay any more than the existing incumbents, and we're going to see that's another going out of business strategy. And all this depends on your knowledge that you've just learned about the customers, their reaction to the value proposition, and all the work you've been doing outside the building. You're going to have an incredible advantage in thinking about revenue and pricing. So the 2 questions let me just remind you that the reason why I love this lecture is that there's a
So one of the things we want to do is to make sure you understand it. Revenue streams is just the strategy, and what was going to follow we're talking about is the pricing. And the first part about pricing, when I work with startups, brand new startups, one thing you say, oh, we're going to price it. Yeah, great, I'm going to price it. I'm going to do markup. I'm going to make a lot of money. But what they fail to do, and this is what I want to sort of give you a hint on, is let me pop up this slide. Before you even think about pricing anything, what I'd like you to consider, look at this guy, is your pricing objectives. And the reason I want you to consider your pricing objectives is if you just set out for a price, and most people, when they do a startup, I'm going to set a price because I want to sell as much as I can. And that's a great way of thinking on a startup. May not be a way to actually be able to be successful at the early stages of your startup. So I want you to consider these three areas of pricing objectives. The first area is called a profit oriented. And it has to do with profit maximization, margin maximization, or target return on investment. The next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about each. The next category is sales oriented, which means you're looking for market share or you're trying to maximize sales. The last category is called status quo. This is where you just sort of go with the flow and you really sort of just trying to sell products. So let's take a quick look of the different pros and cons of pricing objectives. The first one is targeted return on investment. And this is where you set a pricing so that what you're looking for is a return on your capital investment. There's an example. If I'm going to invest $100, I want $5 back for every $100 that I invest in, and that will be a 5% return on investment. A lot of companies, mostly corporations, look at this area because they want a return on investment. You as a startup, you as a business, whether you're small, medium, or large, should also consider how should I set my pricing so that I can maximize my return on investment, or at least have a target for a return on investment. The next one is called maximizing profit. And this is where you start to look at how am I going to price my product or my service so that I can increase my gross margins. So the larger your gross margins, the more likely you will have larger profits. Again, the idea is you want to look at how do I set my price for my products or my service so I can actually increase or grow my gross margins. The next one is called maximizing sales. And this is where a lot of startups just go, I just want to start and get selling things. One of the things you have to really be careful of is that you would like to get as much revenue as possible, but you really have to be careful that it doesn't hurt your firm's profitability. The next one called maximizing market share. One of the vice president of merchandising, the company I work for, which is a global company, that's all we looked at. We looked at how to maximize our market share. Market share is how much of the total market are you actually having as your customer. And this is another way for you to look at it is market share. The one concept I want to talk about market share is to calculate it is might be complex. If you're a startup or a small business, you may not want to really focus on market share, but if you're trying to scale, that's where you start to look at. And lastly, the last one is called maintaining the status quo, where you just meet competitors and you just make sure that you don't go under. These are the 5 common types of pricing objectives. I want to share with you 2 that is often overlooked. And these 2 are very important. The first one is a targeted break-even point. This is when break-even sales are targeted to be reached. A lot of startups don't consider at what part of the month should I hit my break-even point. So break-even is where you have no losses and you have no gains. But from that point on, everything is profitable. You have to understand at what point am I targeting or what date am I targeting to make break even. In the automotive industry, a lot of times we have something called the tender report. And the tender report really just looks at how close you're getting to your break even point. So if you're a startup or a company, you might want to start to look at what is my break even point and how fast should I get there? How fast do I want to get there? The second area that's often overlooked is targeted inventory turns. Inventory turns simply means how many times you turn that inventory within a given period, which increases your return on investment. One of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that your inventory turns are being guided by a objective. So if you're looking for 2 turns, you're looking at your pricing, you're looking at your activities so that you will hit your 2 turns. Again, these are 2 areas often overlooked when companies, especially startups, start to price out their product. So I want you to be real aware that these are things that will help you maximize your productivity as well as hopefully your profitability. Well, quick, this is how you break even calculate. If you're running a business, you already know how to do this. I just thought I showed it. And how does this calculate? I won't calculate, but just give you an example. So when you go back and review this video, the formula will be there. You can pause it and you can actually work the example that I have below. The other one that I have an example is an inventory turn. Now, this is classic. Inventory turns sometimes is really overlooked. And what I want you to understand if you're a startup or you haven't started a business is that your inventory is the amount. What you want to do is you want to maximize the amount of turns, how many times you're selling it. And the reason you want to do that is the faster you can sell a turn in inventory, the more profit you'll get. So again, this example shows you that if you had $100,000 sales, turn 3 times in 30 days, it's $300,000 in revenue. If your gross margin was 20%, it's $20,000. And if you had 3 turns, it was $60,000. And what would be total cost to receive 60,000? It'd be 100,000. Or a return on investment of 60%. Again, I went that pretty fast. But if you have this video, you can stop it. Again, the idea I want you to really think about is this is how you can expand your return on investment by making sure you have a targeted inventory turn. All right. Anyone have any questions? Just yell out if you do.
Can you put that back on the screen, please?
Okay. What was that?
Could you put the last slide back
Oh,
on the
okay.
screen, please?
Oh, sure. There you go.
Mahalo.
Now, this is a simplified version of inventory turn calculations. But again, this is critical. Thanks you for asking to put it back on. This is often overlooked, especially in startups, brand new companies. They sort of forget about this. All right, so let's move on. Next thing we want to do is something to look at the determinants of setting price. These are things that we're going to sort of look at. There's 5 items. I am not a lawyer, so I'm not going to really work on the legal constraints of pricing, but I will, have a discussion on price sensitivity, cost, competition, and the value perception. These are all things that need to be considered when you're deciding what's the price am I going to charge for a product or service that I want to offer my customers. So the first area is price sensitivity. And it's basic supply and demand. When supply is smaller than demand, prices rise. When prices rise, sales fall. The opposite is when supply is larger than demand, prices fall. When prices fall, sales go up. That is a natural up and down of price sensitivity, and we call that elasticity of demand. The one on the bottom, in elastic demand, is something I want to invest a couple of minutes on. The inelastic demand means that no matter if the supply it goes up and down, price goes up and down, the demand stays pretty much stable. And the reason this is important for us to sort of have a short discussion is this. It is a margin builder. So inelastic demand is present when a product or service is essential with little to no substitution. As again, little to no substitution, such as an exclusive product or accessories and services which are needed to make a main product work better. This is something I want you all to start to think about, because in most businesses, you can create a portion of your product or service offering that is inelastic. As an example, below, baggage fees. If you're going on vacation, most of us, if not all of us, search for the most economic price for the given time we want to go ahead and travel. And we'll choose an airline, we'll choose a travel time, travel date, just to get the best price for that flight. But when it comes to baggage fees, you pay it, regardless whether it's $40, $25, you just pay it. That's an example of inelastic demand. The main product is the airfare or the seat, and the accessory or service that needs to be done to make it work, to get you on a plane into your destination, is baggage, and you pay the baggage fees. Same thing with earbuds for iPhones and gasoline. When you're short on gas, when your tank is showing that you're pretty close to empty, you really don't drive around looking for the cheapest gas. You just drive into the closest service station. My classic one is you go to a restaurant and you're having breakfast and you're scanning the menu looking for, the best possible breakfast, but also the best possible price for that breakfast. And you say, all right, I'm going to get this $5.99 pancake. You order $5.99 pancake and you want a cup of coffee, and most people do. And the waitress says, that coffee is $4. Most of us will say, okay. That's, again, the idea behind creating your own inelastic demand. And if you search your particular business model, your current business model, or your business concept, you want to find either a service or a product accessory, especially, that can be used to create an inelastic demand situation, because it helps build your margin. And so I'm going to pose to you another question for you to consider and write down. What product or service can you add to your offerings to create inelastic pricing for that item? This one, again, I would like to encourage you to really sit down and, if you're running a current business, look at it, examine it, and see where you can create one. And if you're planning right now you're designing a business, I want you to design an item or a service that's also going to be inelastic. Again, it's important because it builds your margin. Any question about that concept? Let's sort of move on to the next category, cost. And so what we want to do here is what you're looking at on your screen is the typical components of a cost: fixed expenses, variable expenses, labor, marketing and sales, shipping and deliver, and taxes, which usually comprise what we call total expenses. From a pricing standpoint, and a pricing creating standpoint, total expenses are usually then added to with additional money or dollars, and you create a price, and that's called markup. A markup means that you take a cost and you add an amount to it, and that will be what will be your contribution margin, which eventually becomes your profit. The one next to it, keystone, is for retailers, especially for retail industry, where they don't bother calculating a lot of things as a markup. They simply said, if my cost is 100, I will just sell it for 200. Keystone means just to double what your cost is. The markup, you might want to calculate different pricing, but if you use the keystone method, especially in retail, you just, whatever your cost is, you double it. These are the two most common ways into pricing. So this is cost. I'd like to share with you a cost that, again, may be overlooked. And I think if you haven't thought about it, I think you might find this particular area quite interesting. So I'm going to turn the slide and also going to show you a video why this particular cost needs to be looked at and addressed. So that overlooked cost is called the customer acquisition cost, or CAC. There's a little explanation, but before I go back to the slide, I want to show a video. This video is 8 minutes long, but I won't use a full 8 minutes. I'll just use maybe about 4 or 5 minutes of it. But it gives you a really accurate understanding of why it's important to, one, understand what your customer acquisition costs and how to minimize it. So let's take a look at the video. Again, two-step process. Understand this one area of cost, customer acquisition. If you saw that video prior to where they asked the question, how profitable, you would think that business was flying. You would think that business would just be going off, because all the numbers up to that point were just fabulous. Until the question was asked, what's your profitability? And they were losing money because of customer acquisition. So customer acquisition, let me pop up the slide where some calculations are showing. I want to show you why it is so important. So, Mr. Wonderful, Kevin, wanted two numbers, customer acquisition and lifetime value. We'll talk about lifetime value in a couple of minutes. But the customer acquisition is what it costs you to get your customer for the first time. And this is a critical point. How much does it cost you to get your customer to buy your product for the first time? And it's usually calculated this way, where marketing costs, selling costs, and delivery costs are divided by the number of new customers, not customers, but new customers you get within that given time frame. And so that becomes your customer acquisition costs. And with that customer acquisition cost, the second number that Mr. Wonderful wanted was lifetime value. And lifetime value, it represents how much revenue or how much dollars you will get from a customer over a given period of time. And so you have, again, a calculation, average sales times number repeat. Again, I don't want to delve too much on the formulas for both customer acquisition as well as lifetime. But what's important is that I'm going to show you to the next slide. If you're not careful, you'll end up with your cost of acquisition greater than your lifetime, which means you're losing money and you'll shortly go out of business. A well-balanced business model has your customer acquisition costs much smaller than your lifetime value. And so you might say, Dad, so how do I get that one to the right? How do I get my cost of acquisition lower than my lifetime value? And this is what you need to look at. You need to look at tactical pricing and promotions, which we'll cover at the end, towards the end of this evening, to generate repeat customer purchase to reduce your CAC and increase lifetime value. And so what you really need to understand is, do you have a customer retention plan in your business? And the reason is the customer retention plans, the more times a customer comes back, you notice that little illustration about the repeat customers, and then one new customer. That new customer, really, the acquisition cost of that is really low because it's being covered by repeat customers. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have in place in your company or your company design some form of customer retention plan. Most probable ones are called loyalty programs or insider special discounts, membership programs. Other types we'll cover towards the end of this evening. But you should really think about having a customer retention plan because it reduces your customer acquisition costs and raises your lifetime value, which actually is a really good thing for a business. How to figure it out is the 20-80 rule. 20% of your customers drive 80% of your sales. If you can keep those 20% of your customers happy, they keep coming back, they'll bring others with them, and you'll keep buying. So this is what I want you to consider when we consider pricing and promotion under the cost factor. So hopefully this is helpful. So again, I got task you with thinking about what customer retention program can you add to your business. I want you to think about that. So let's go into the next area of how to focus on pricing, which is competition. So pricing starts with an objective, which we spoke about earlier this evening, which may be sidetracked by competition. And again, I sort of giggle because for a lot of brand new companies, inexperienced owners, this term competition scares them crazy. And whenever one of their competitors makes this dramatic price change, they suddenly go, wild, trying to figure out what should I do? What should I do? And I usually like to say to them, keep focused, eliminate distractions, cut through the noise. And this is what I mean. How are you positioned in the market against your two closest competitors? And the reason I'm saying your two closest competitors is because those are the two who you should be actually focusing on. You want to make sure that you're always in front of them. I mean, in terms of profitability, in terms of sales, whatever you think is a good measurement for you to be in front of your competition. But look at these two closest ones. Because once you start to pay attention to those outside of those two, this is what happens. You get distracted. And when you're distracted, you may do certain things that will take you off your course, which may cost you sales, might cost you margin, might cost you some profitability. So what I want you to consider when we're looking at competitions, one, you sort of have to know how you're positioned against your two closest competitors and not get distracted by one of your competitors who are down the road from you doing a pricing change or a pricing promotion. So let's look at how you can take advantage of this area if you don't get distracted. So we talk about marketing position. If you were at the first our first area in our series, we talked about positioning. And positioning simply means how do you make your company or your offering differentiation from your competition so you stand out, so you are apart from them. If you can determine what that is, then you can then position your company so that that differentiation becomes the memorable part of your business. Again, first of all, what you want to do for market position is to find an aspect of your company. It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be a philosophy, it could be multiple things that you have to look at to differentiate yourself, make you different from your competition, especially the two that's closest to you. And then position that differentiation in the minds of your consumer. So let me show you an illustration. So again, in the world of the lean launch, we call the core product the minimal viable product. This is the part of your product or service offering that satisfies what problem you're solving. But that just puts you in a way to solve problems. What we want to do is to create the outer ring, which are unique value proposition and differentiation. Unique value proposition, I'm going to share a video with you in a couple of seconds to explain that. But this is what's important. Customers will pay for a well-understood unique value proposition. And this is where differentiation becomes your competitive advantage against competition. But you first have to figure out what is your unique value proposition. So let's watch this video. Again, this is a two-step process when we look at video. So I don't want to lose you, so let's be patient.
Your UVP. Your business's unique value proposition is the basis for every message you're sending out. If you own the only shoe repair service in town, your gigantic unique value proposition may be that you're the only shoe repairer in town. It's enough to hang up a shoe and have somebody come to you. If there are 15 shoe repair shops, however, you need to be the one that stands out in the crowd somehow. Identifying your unique value proposition is no easy task because it's not just about being valuable. It's about being unique. What do you bring to the table that others do not, or cannot, or are not willing to? How does someone know that you're good at what you do? Contrary to popular belief, it's not about the Ers. Better, faster, cheaper. It's about the Ests. Those are, you're the best, you're the fastest, you're the cheapest. If you just tell me that you're cheaper, are you Walmart? Because they're the cheapest. And if you tell me about how you make people happier, are you Disneyland? Because that's the happiest place on earth. And Zappos, the best online service. And the wine bar downtown, the largest selection of wines by the glass. That's something I'll tell my friends about. My dentist, he's the friendliest. And that's why I go there. And that's his unique value proposition. Think about what is it that you bring to the table? And sometimes that's hard to do when it's you. How about you ask some of your best clients, people that view you from the outside, and say, why did you choose me over someone else? Unfortunately, there will always be a portion of the population that ignores you. It doesn't matter how good your unique value proposition is in those cases. Those consumers just don't need what your company has to offer right now. And that's okay. Because if you're memorable, they'll come back to you when it matters, or they might just end up being a surprise referral source in the end.
So now I want you to really figure out what is it that's your unique value proposition, because what I want you to do is this. At the top, again, when we talk about the value formula, when we talk about lean launch, talk about the value formula, which means the value is really a formula of the benefits divided by price. And again, the size of the value is dependent upon the size of the benefit. You see there are two formulations, one with the red value is a small and benefits are small, price seems large. The opposite is value looks large, benefits large, price is small. Actually, these two prices could be exactly the same. How a customer perceives the value is in benefits. So what I'd like you to consider, instead of competing on price and price alone, I want you to consider competing on customer benefits, because that will give you differentiation and will give you a competitive advantage and will also make sure that you are memorable. So again, if one of your competitors down the road makes a pricing move, I don't want you to really look first at a pricing move, but to really go ahead and sort of look at what's my benefits package. And in the world of pricing, we call this value-based pricing, where you base your price based on the value of the benefits of your product or your service. So I'm going to task you one more question to think about, and that is, what are your differentiators? What makes you different? What value do they hold to your customers? And how much will they be willing to pay for it? This is, again, something I want you to consider. Write it down, think about it, look at your company, look at all the things that you're designing within your company, and try to find that one or two, maybe more, differentiators that will absolutely build your business based on the value of the product or service, so you can get additional revenues for it. So we're just about 35 minutes from where we want to end. And so I'm now moving into the very common types of pricing tactics and promotional tactics. But before I get there, I will give you a really helpful tip. Price every product or service offered and make the price easy to find by the customer. I can't tell you how many times I walk into a store and find something, or my wife would say, hey, this is great looking thing. So picks it up and you can't find the price. Absolutely can't find the price. And that is, I have no idea why some stores might do that, but it always ends up with myself putting it down and walking away. No matter what the price is, put it on a product or have it attached to a product or at least assign for your services. Because if your customer is interested and they know what the price is, they will probably buy it. So make sure everything you sell is priced and that price is really easy to find. So let's look at some common pricing approaches. The first three are the classic ones. If you ever take any marketing course, this is the first three when you come to pricing chapter. This is the one you get. Skimming prices. Skimming prices means you will charge a slightly higher than average price, maybe as high as you can possibly make it, because your product is new and you have to have a higher price point. One, to recoup some of your research and development, but also to test the limits of how much you can go ahead and ask for that product. This is also often attracting what they call the innovators, who will be wanting to be the first ones to buy the new product and will pay high for it. And this is the reason why when you have an iPhone, I think iPhone 16 or 17 is coming up, it's originally priced at like $1,500. And the people who come and stand in line for the first week pay the $1,500. These are the innovators and early adopters, and they want to pay it. And so what Apple is doing is they're price skimming. And about a month later, when competition starts to jump in, Samsung jumps in, they start to drop their price. But skimming price is something if you have something that's brand new and really have very little competition. The opposite of that is penetration pricing. Penetration pricing is when you want to grab market share. And we talked about that earlier about pricing objective. And so penetration price, you get as low as possible to grab as much market share from your competition as possible. The other ones for everyday low prices, this is where you select a price, you think it's a fair price, and that's where the price will be for the remainder life of the product. So these are three most classic ones. There's others. I'm going to let this click off, and I want to come back to the one that says the video. I'm going to show you one final video for the evening. Cost plus pricing, which means what we discussed earlier, whatever your cost is, you're going to put an additional amount of money, which is a markup, and then that will be your sell price. And I'm going to skip over odd even pricing for now. Then there's prestige pricing, value-based, something that we just discussed a couple of minutes ago. This is when your product or your service has a special feature or unique benefit. It has high quality, especially in high quality items. You want to make sure that you have a higher price point because it is worth it. And that's called value-based. So take a look at what your offering is and what is that product or service that you can have prestige pricing. The next one now is called dynamic pricing. Dynamic pricing is when you price things based on the market conditions, supply and demand. Again, it is called dynamic because it'll fluctuate. It may fluctuate more rapidly. The one thing that is real common is airline seats. As airlines, if you've been looking for vacation, you might find that if I wait long enough, the prices might drop. And the reason is that if a plane flies off with an empty seat, they haven't got revenue. So what airlines like to do is they would like to price their seats relatively high at the start of the season. And as time gets closer for that flight to take off and less seats are filled, they start to drop the price so that you actually buy that seat. So this is an example of dynamic pricing. Also, negotiation is an example of dynamic pricing. Dynamic simply means it is fluctuating. It'll fluctuate on a rapid basis based on the conditions of the market. And right now, you might think, if you want to, if you plan way ahead, you can buy a Halloween costume super cheap because Halloween was a couple of weeks ago. So this is dynamic pricing. Now, I want to get back to odd even. I want to share with you one final video for the evening. And I find this one pretty interesting. So let me pop that up.
This video was made possible by Squarespace. Build your website with Squarespace for 10% off at squarespace.com/HAI. So you know how the price of pretty much anything ends in 99? Watermelon slicers, 200,000 sheets of paper, a Nicolas Cage pillowcase, the air conditioning and refrigeration repair made easy book, a life-size cardboard pig cutout, scissors. Literally everything you could ever want is priced ending in 99 cents. There's a good reason so many prices reflect this pattern. Because you're stupid. Okay, not you. More like you as a collective humanity are stupid. I'm sure you are very intelligent. Humans have different psychological quirks that affect how they perceive numbers, and the 99-cent trick is one of the best known ones. So well known that you're probably wondering why you're watching this video, but don't worry, I have terrible jokes. The idea is that when people see the price $5.99, they focus on the big number. Not this big number, the ever-growing national debt of the United States, this one, the 5. The brain will then perceive the price as $5 rather than almost $6, which is a big difference. Numerous studies have proven that the psychological difference between $5.99 and $6 is more than a cent. Except here's the problem. Tons of products are now priced this way. About 244 million tons annually, actually. That's 60% of all products, and so consumers, you guys, now know the trick. See, I told you guys were smart. Only joking, because now there's a new trick. Not ending prices in 99 cents. If you go and buy a Rolex watch, the price ends in a whole number, but if you go and buy a Casio watch, the price ends in 99 cents. So, nowadays, ending your price in a whole number is perceived as a mark of quality. Only the most refined, most luxurious, most lavish products are priced at whole numbers, like the official Half as Interesting t-shirt available at dftba.com. But then there's a whole other trick, ignoring both of these rules. When you price something at a seemingly random number, $4.63 for example, the consumer supposedly notices the irregularity of the price and stops and thinks about it a little longer. When you're selling something for a really good price, a discount, this is exactly what you want the consumer to do. You want them to notice the great price, and so more and more retailers, like Walmart, are pricing their products with irregular decimal places. So, just to summarize, I've now told you the tricks are to price products at 99 cents, to price products at whole numbers, and to price products randomly, so hopefully you now realize this video is pointless, like a circle. Continuing on, the best way to get you to buy an expensive product is to put it right next to an even more expensive product. Coincidentally, I'm releasing a new bespoke, organic, cage-free chest coverlet at dftba.com. Just like in survival and aviation and writing, there's a rule of 3 in pricing. Netflix, for example, offers a basic package for $8, a standard for $11, and a premium for $14. Now, the one that they're really pushing you towards is this one, the standard. The basic package doesn't even offer HD, which few people would want, but for a small upcharge, $3, you can get the standard package with HD viewing and multiple screens. Netflix still can, however, market itself as costing $8 per month. Meanwhile, there's the most expensive option at $14 with options that few people will need, like the Ultra HD quality and 4 simultaneous viewing screens. Most people will disregard the lowest option for its lack of features and disregard the highest option for its price, which leads them quite easily to the middle standard option. Restaurants are also notorious in using a variation of this trick where they put a $60 steak on the menu to make a $20 burger seem cheap. Netflix also deploys another tactic that almost every online business uses: monthly pricing. Anyone can agree that you'd be much less likely to sign up for Netflix if it was advertised as $132 per year, even though that's the same as it costs nowadays. So breaking it down into a monthly price makes it seem much more reasonable for most. Speaking of online businesses, you should sign up for Squarespace because you can have a beautiful website with them starting at just 0.000.
That 3-step pricing is an old one. This series is called Good, Better, Best, and the secret behind that is your middle price, the one that will get the most purchases. That's the one you build your biggest margin on. And so that's the secret behind that particular pricing, is that your margin is highest in that middle one, and you'll drive it to that process that was just shown. So let's go back and quickly look at more pricing approaches, because I want to get to the promotional side very quickly. So let's take a look at more pricing approaches. Competitive pricing, leader pricing, captive pricing, good, better, best pricing, which we saw in the video, and predatory pricing. Competitive pricing means you just stay within the range. You're going to stay within the range of your two closest competitors. Don't go chasing your competitors that are way down the road from you, because you'll just be throwing money down the tube. Leader pricing simply means that you price one or two items so that to attract people into your store or into your website. Captive pricing, this is if you can figure out where in your business can you create captive pricing, that simply means the customers has no other alternative to buy that product. And my typical example is airport food and water. You are trapped in the airport. Whatever the price of the water and the food, you will buy it if you're thirsty and hungry enough. So look at your business. Can you create anything that has captive pricing? Good, better, best pricing? And predatory pricing. Predatory pricing, and sometimes I've run across companies who, at the very start of their startup, try to do predatory pricing. Means I'm going to price my product so low, I'm going to drive my competition out, and I'll have a monopoly. That's not recommended, because most people who try that usually go broke. So again, these are common types. The multi-unit ones are the ones I want you to really take a look at. So these are 5 different ways. BOGO simply means buy one, get one get one free, buy one, get 20%. Most of us have seen BOGO. In fact, the holiday season is full of these BOGOs. Price bundling is another area in which you take one or 2 or more products and you would bundle it so that they're bought together. And the total price of that bundle is less than if you bought each of the products separately. There's a couple of interesting things we'll discuss in a couple of seconds about price bundling, but this is where you can increase your revenue and also go ahead and get more unit sales. Tiered pricing is when you set your pricing to say, if you reach a certain number, let's say we're selling hot dogs, and you buy 5 hot dogs for $1. And when you buy your 6th hot dog, it is 90 cents, and all the other previous hot dogs now becomes 90 cents. That's tiered pricing, where once you hit a threshold, you get a discount, and every item previous to that gets the same discount. Volume pricing is different in that the units leading up to the threshold is one price, but when the threshold is met, the reduction or discount is taken on the additional units. So again, with the hot dog, if you're selling 5 hot dogs for $1, you buy a 6th hot dog, the 5 is $1, but the 6th one could be 90 cents. So that's the difference between tiered pricing and volume pricing. You can play with that back and forth, but it's another way for you to increase unit sales, dollar sales, as well as increase some of your gross margin. Price sliding is when you have multiple lines, and you just create different categories, and each of the categories are one price, so that the customer doesn't have to figure out, if they're looking at 20 items, they don't have to figure out 20 different prices. You create 2 or 3 categories, and anything in that category is the same price. It makes the customers really easy to find a price. When you look at your business and your pricing, we really would like you to take a look at how you can create BOGOs, create bundling, look at tiered. Tiered is the one that's much more popular than the volume. And also, if you have multiple product lines, you might want to consider price lagging. So these are multi-unit ways to price. So now we've talked about pricing, the most common ones. So you now have to go ahead and create some way to get the customer excited. And we usually use promotional mix elements. And in this case, the more classic ones are advertising, public relations, consumer sales promotion, trade promotions, and direct marketing, professional selling. I'm not going to discuss 5 of these. I'm just going to really discuss just one. And I want to give you a tip before we get into promotions. So most of the time, people start, I want to advertise. And in my mind, the one thing about advertising, that's good as pros and cons, but advertising is a paid message. You pay for that message. It's delivered over some kind of communication channel. It could be television, it could be radio, it could be magazines. You pay for it, delivered. The issue is that it has a lag time between when the message is delivered and the response takes place. Again, that's the thing about advertising. There's a lag between when the message is delivered and the response takes place. Promotion, on the other hand, is to drive revenue with an offering that creates quick response, oftentimes immediate response. So let's take a look at some of the more classic ones. First one is, again, sales promotions. Only goal is to drive revenue. So when you look at free samples is it's really the easiest thing. If you ever, I'm sure all of us goes to Costco, and on Saturdays and Sundays, you can get all free samples. Free samples is a very powerful way to get people to, again, buy a product because they have a small taste of it. Not only edible product, but different types of products that you can think of that you can offer free samples. Then we're going to move into coupons and discounts, BOGOs and bundles once again, loyalty programs, and event sales. So let's take a look at coupons and discounts. So on the left-hand side is discounts. And again, it's percentage discount, 10% off, 20% off, dollar discounts, $5, $10. So discount simply means you're taking some of your regular price and reducing it for a customer to purchase it at that reduced price. Instant discount is when that oftentimes you may have gone to a store and it says discount taken at the register, or they might have a little red tag that's instant discount on it. This is when you're trying to move you're overstocked mostly, but you want to move it quickly. So it's an instant discount, take it at the time of purchase. The next two, I kind of want you to look at member discounts. And the reason why, even though you might mean Costco is a member organization, you buy into the membership and you have discounts, store prices. But if you can create some kind of member type of discount for your customers, and the reason is it is part of a retention plan. The other one, this is the one I want you to really look hard at. If you can't do it, and if you can't still try to do it, it's called lifetime discounts. And it is pinpointing a very specific demographic group. The one I really want you to consider is, can you create at least a senior citizens discount? Or pick a particular career path, like first responders or teachers. What you want to do with this one is that you give this specific group of people a discount. Again, it drives additional business, it drives your customer retention, and reduces your customer acquisition and improves your lifetime value. Promotional discounts we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. If you can, offer a referral discount, which means if you have a current customer, if they come in with a friend or a family or somebody, and you say, all right, I'm going to give you a referral discount. This is where so many friends and family sales work so much, because you all bring your cousins in, you bring your nephews in, and you get these discounts. That's discount in general. What you want to think about on coupons is coupons are reminders. I mean, coupons are printed or electronic, but you hold on to it, and so they give you some kind of discount upon redemption. And one of the things about coupons is that it's designed for you not to use it until a specific time. It's a reminder. And one of the benefits of coupons is it will bring a customer back to your store to redeem the coupons. And these are types of coupons: percentage off, dollars of course, percentage off your next visit or purchase. Again, you're coming back. Again, try to create coupons across businesses. If you are let's say a tofu seller business, you might want to make a cross coupon with a Simon producer. So make that kind of connection where both of you or multiples of you are offering cross coupons in which you drive business together. There's also special event coupons, and you can create your own event. It could be a holiday event, it could be an anniversary event, and coupons. But coupons are important because it's a reminder to come back to the store, and it keeps your customers in contact with you. Rebates are fascinating. The reason I like rebates is because if you can do one, a rebate says you need to redeem a receipt to gain the money back. And you get that during the holiday season, especially in consumer electronics. You buy $1,000 laptop and they give you a rebate for $200, but you have to take your receipt, send it into the company, it could be Apple, and when they get the receipt, they'll send you a check with $200. The big secret behind rebates is 70% of the rebates are not redeemed. People just forget about it. So if you ever get into a situation in the next several months where you buy a product and you get a rebate coupon, what you want to do is, as soon as you get home, redeem it. So this is BOGOs and bundles. Again, buy one, get one free, 50% off. Buy two and get one free. This is called a bundle again, where you buy two products, you get one free. The other words, buy two or more bundle products at low price, buy two or more. What I want to get at with this little slide is this. When you do BOGOs and bundles, whether you're giving away a free product with discounts, loyalty points, or gift cards, it's a way for you to control your slow-moving inventory. What you want to do is you want to get a fast-moving product or high-margin product attached to a slow-moving product so that you can reduce your inventory on the slow-moving product, increasing your inventory turns and getting rid of or at least minimizing the effects of products that are not selling. So BOGOs and bundles have the advantage of getting to sell more product, units and dollars, but also helps to control your slow-moving types of products, which hurts your bottom line. These are loyalty programs. Spoke about loyalty programs earlier for the standpoint that it reduces your customer acquisition, raises your lifetime value. These are typical point-based, means every time they purchase something, you give them a point. The most common ones are frequent flyer reward miles. Every time you take a trip, you get some points added to your account. A tiered program is very similar to the Hawaiian program, or it's a great example, in which there are different levels of benefits as you reach different thresholds. Like the Pulani, you either have a Pulani Gold or a Pulani Platinum, tiered. There's also loyalty programs in which when you hit a specified threshold of dollars, you get cash back amounts. Buy $100 and we'll give you $5 back. These are, again, loyalty programs, keep people coming back. The most common of the loyalty program, punch card. I highly recommend punch cards, not the electronic version, but the physical version. Reason is that it is a physical reminder to come and buy your product so you can get a punch on it and get rewarded. If you use the electronic punch card, sometimes they forget about it because you got so many apps. But if you have a physical one, it's always a constant reminder that you can get a discount if you go in and you buy another product. Coalition programs, it means that one or more business combined. Most typical one are airport lounges where multiple airlines are paying for that lounge. Get together with some of your company partners and then come up with a coalition loyalty program. And the last one is a fee-based program. Fee-based means you pay into it. Again, Costco is really a fee-based. You pay to get into the Costco reward program, but it's loyalty. And again, fee-based means there is skin in the game and they keep coming back. We're almost towards the end. We've got 10 more minutes. And I just got 2 or 3 more slides to share with you. The next one is called events. Now, this is one you do not want to miss an opportunity to have an event sales where you can create a program or change your pricing Of course, you got major holidays, Christmas, 4th of July, state holidays, Statehood Day, King Kamehameha, regional events, UH homecoming. This is something of my interest. If you have a company that's close to the University of Hawaii, when I say close, within 20 miles of UH Manoa, you might want to create some kind of UH homecoming event. Anniversary sales. Do not pass up anniversary sales whatsoever. It's a once in a year event, whether it's the founding of a store, years in existence, or the owner or founder's birthday. It's a one-time event, and it's a great time in which to get people's attention. There's also the customary Valentine's, Mother's Day, Black Friday, spring sales. So these are things that you don't want to pass by, because in these major events, customers are really in tune that I want to buy something, so I'm looking for a reason to buy. The one I really like, and when I was merchandising, vice president of merchandise, I use this quite often, as I created my own holiday. One of my favorites was the Lucky the Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th occurs maybe about 2, maybe 3 times you're lucky in a year. And so everybody, the attention is Friday the 13th is about luck. So I used to use it as an event to drive really, really promotions that were just not just eye-catching, but it was really profitable for the buyers, because it was huge discounts. I got rid of a lot of my slow-moving items by pricing it really, really low and using Friday the 13th as an excuse. So you, as a store owner, as a business owner, have the ability with some creativity to create your own events in which none of your competition can actually copy. So I've just been discussing for the last 80 minutes different ways to price, different ways to look at promotion and tactics, and some tips and tricks on how to get your margins up, how to get profitability up. And I want to end the evening, we have about 10 minutes left, in an area about planning your monthly promotion calendar. You have to have one. And I say it must. The reason is that if you have a specific calendar and the events, what you're going to be merchandising, what you're going to be selling, what's your price, what's your margin, what's your turn inventory, things that we discussed earlier in the evening, you can then plan out a calendar so you can control the ebb and flow of your business in terms of revenue and margin and profitability by looking at the calendar and using it to your advantage. But you have to have one. You don't have to have as many as this, but have one that is very strategic and with the strategy, the tactics that we've been talking about. Once you have that calendar and you're ready to go to market, what I want you to do is to look at how am I going to drive the message? Because if we talked about sales, talked about promotions, talked about pricing, we talked about many things, but you have to, when you go out and you start to promote in terms of advertising or promotion, go to market, your message has to revolve around one of these 3 things. It's going to be either informing your customers about an offer or a product that's new, or persuading them to buy a product, whether it's new or old, or reminding them to buy a product, whether it's usually it's old, it's because it's maturity. So your 3 message points are, you have to decide, am I informing, am I persuading, or am I reminding? So I want to give you an example of what we've been talking about this evening, these 3 forms of messaging, and to show you how it works. So I have just created a brand new guava jam with a hint of Kona lime. It's called Rainbow, which is a type of lime. So I've been selling guava jams, but now I've come up with a brand new flavor called Kona lime, and I want to go to market. And this is how I would, if I was, my message intention was to introduce, I give a 25% introductory discount, a pure out discount on the line. Now, if I want to persuade them, because it's brand new, I'm not sure if they really want to try it, so I want to persuade them to buy them. So to use persuasion, I would use a BOGO. buy one Kona lime and get any other flavor. I have multiple flavors at 50% off. Again, we use the first one is an introductory straight discount. The second is a BOGO, where we say, all right, I'm going to persuade you to buy a Kona lime because I'm going to give you a great offer on the one that you really want. And the last way, if you're going to remind, you can offer the 25% introductory discount with the coupon for the same 25% off when you buy one on your next purchase. You're reminding them to come back. So this is how, when we look at this messaging, informing, persuading, reminding, and combining it with what we've been talking about in terms of pricing and promotional tactics and strategies, you can create a program. If you notice, the discount is exactly the same, just that we have presented it in 3 different fashions, because what we want to do in the world of marketing, this is what we want to do. We want to first to create attention, drive interest, create desire, and finally action, which is the purpose. When we do the action, interest, desire, and action, the way we structure the offering, going back to that, how we structured these 3 offerings with the same type of discount, with this format of attention, interest, and desire, if we formulate it the right way, we are communicating to our customers by encoding the message in which they get excited and will give us feedback and buy the product we're trying to sell or the service. So you can see that what we've been talking this evening is really about communicating an offer so that you can get a feedback in such a way that your customer becomes excited, they get energized, they want to buy more, and they want to buy often. So that was I have one more slide before I do it. That is where I end the discussion on pricing and promotion planning. Is there any questions? Well, we have about 5 minutes left. Any questions that anyone want to ask? If not, if you want to do it in private, let me put up my second to my final slide. So let me go. And so if you want to, there is a limited one-on-one complimentary consultation with myself in person or in Zoom. And that's going to be available in the time next week. So if you want to schedule a complimentary consultation on your business, on pricing or promotions, please contact the Wahiwa Value Added Product Development Center for available times and dates, and then make an appointment. And I'll be glad to meet with you on Zoom or in person at the center, and we can talk story about it. And with that, this is my final slide of the evening. Eke aloha pumihana. So great aloha with great warmth. So with that, I thank all of you. Oops. Oh, I think we're back. Let me stop sharing. Oh, I think let's stop sharing. Okay, I think we're done. All right. All right. So thank you so much for staying with me the evening. It's now about 2 minutes to 7. I appreciate that you're all attentive, and I appreciate it. So many of you have remained for the last 90 minutes, and I hope you learned something about your business and have gotten some tips that maybe will drive higher profitability, higher unit sales, or just find ways to have fun in running your business. So with that, thank you so much for the evening, and have a wonderful remainder of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Hi, mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The recording will be provided to you by the Wahoo Value Added Product Development Center. They'll be sending you a link for the replay.
Oh, mahalo.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Stop the recording.